I was listening to the Idea Tank podcast the other day, and they had this really interesting discussion with this guy that had an idea about creating a new government, a new form of democracy. He was basing this on the blockchain technology that's behind cryptocurrencies. His idea basically was that the more secure the voting system is, the less government corruption there'll be. As they discussed this idea, they came across a bit of an issue. What are the assumptions that you're making about the human heart? Would secure voting really stop selfish people from buying or bribing votes? How do we view other people? We're looking again today at Philippians chapter 1, verses 3 to 11. There's a link to this in the video description below, so go ahead and pause the video and read Philippians 1, 3 to 11. Paul prayed. Paul loved God and based his life around his relationship with God. But was that it? How did that actually affect his life? We started this series by looking at Paul's missionary journey to Philippi. We've seen how the gospel was at the heart of his mission and ministry. This didn't lead Paul to a life of quiet meditation. He didn't lock himself away and study the Bible and pray by himself. Paul's foundational relationship with God led him to interact with others. He built relationships with people. Paul wrote this letter to the church in Philippi, men and women who he had met, spoken with, and grown to love. I know for myself that I quite often find it easy to think of religion as just something for myself. I just want to have my own private practices, just me and my Bible and me and my time of prayer. And our culture reinforces this. We're told that whatever we think is fine, just as long as we don't, push it on to other people, and as long as it doesn't affect other people's lives. But this is just not possible for a Christian. Now, the Bible doesn't command us to go and do this with a sword, but rather it's to be a response to God's love for us and seeing God's love for the world and sharing in that love for the world. When we meet God and see who He is, it changes how we see those around us. The book of Genesis in the Old Testament tells us how God created man. He made them male and female in His own image. Now, this doesn't mean that we're little gods, but rather that we were made to be able to relate to God. He made us so that we could speak with Him. When we look at the world around us, we are looking at people that God created in order to have a relationship with them. Now, we'll probably see them, and if we're honest about ourselves, we'll probably see ourselves not living with God as even an acquaintance, let alone a best friend. But Jesus came to restore that relationship. He is the one who works in people's lives to fight those selfish tendencies, to promote peace and goodwill. And God does this in a variety of ways, and perhaps the most evident to us is by calling us who have a relationship with God, those who believe in Him, to share their experience with God with those around them. This is what Paul did in Philippi. It was deeply meaningful to Paul personally, and was used by God for the advancement of His kingdom. Just look at verses 7 and 8. For it is only right for me to feel this way about you all, because I have you in my heart, since both in my imprisonment and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel, you all are partakers of grace with me. For God is my witness how I long for you all with the affection of Christ Jesus. This is what the characters in the Christmas story were doing. Just think of the shepherds. They heard the angel's announcement. They ran to the manger to see Jesus. And then they went and told all their friends and family about Jesus' miraculous birth. So as we celebrate Christmas, let's ask ourselves, how do I see the people around me? Do I think of others as important to God? Am I sharing my faith joyfully and lovingly with both the Christians and non-Christians in my life?